Okay, good Tavach, everyone. Welcome to a beautiful Matzah Shabbos of learning Torah, as we're co-sponsored by the Rezepkowitz family in honor of their parents, co-sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Eddie Chazan, the Refuah Shalema for Shoshana Bas Penina and Simone Bas Rachel, co-sponsored by Binyamin Rivlin, Lili Nishmas Yitzhak Ben Avraham Yudah Levi, co-sponsored by Shelley Zeitlin, for the schus of his children, Eli and Orit and Ora, and we are sponsored by Shalom Fogel, the Nishmas Yaakov Zev Ben Yehudaye, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Sivya Miriam Bas Gad, Yosef Ben Sim Ben Yaakov Zev. The neshama should have an aliyah. Also, I just got a new name. 1 second. We were sponsored by Berich Goldwasser for my refuah, Moshe Meir Ben Esther Fradel, Hakos HaTov to the shir. Also, the refuah shalema for Dov Meir Ben Chaya Gittel should have a refuah shalema b'seich Shachel Yisrael. We at this wonderful evening, we welcome in Mel Zachter, Eddie Chazan, Irving Fishbaum, Ben Zion Cohn, Dr. Block, Marshall Castle, Saba, A.B. Spry, Yaakov Warman, and Mo Kushner, who gets a mazel tov on the birth of a great-granddaughter, Michal, Yisrael Fisher, Stephen Holtzman, Chaim Lerner, Shimon Klein, Shimon Deer, Menachem Umansky, Shelley Zeitlin, Dr. Guy, Nachman Chaplin, Moshe Lehman, Ilya Shudman, Avram Rezepkowitz, Rabbi Kranz, and Chaim Braun, and Marshall has matured finally.
I got my Nicole Noam with me.
Well, Noam, it's nice to have you. You should be zeicha to grow up to a Ben Torah, l'chuppah l'masim tovim. We have over here in the shul Barish Gesseman, Michal Avram Chavin, Ruven Chanet, David Helfgott on Kol Aloshin, as we have once again exciting blat to learn and to discover. We are holding by the new Mishnah on the bottom of Mem Daled Amud Beis. New Mishnah on the bottom of Mem Daled Amud Beis. The Mishnah tells us, Hoya Rochak Mibeis Askila Arba Amas, when they were at a distance of about 4 amas, from 6 to 8 feet from the place of the stoning, Mafshitin Oisai Es Begadav, they undressed him. Ha'ish Mechasin Oisai Milafanav, a man they had a loincloth in the front. V'isha Milfanea Umeacharea, the woman in the front and in the back, because it's you could see her erva from the back as well. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. V'chachamim, the chacham say, Ish niskal arim, a man is stoned unclothed. Ve'eno isha niskelas aruma, a woman is not stoned unclothed. She is given 1 shift of clothing. Tan Rabbanan, Mem Hamad Aleph. Having in mind to be Mekayim the mitzvah Ibar Tabam La'asais Nachas Ruach Liyotzen. Tan Rabbanan. For ish mechasin oisai perek echad milafanav, a man is covered with 1 loincloth in front. V'isha shnei prakim, a woman with 2 pieces of a loincloth. Bein milfaneh, bein milacharea. Mipnei shekula erva, because we could see her nakedness from the back as well. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. V'chachamim ma'imir ma'ish niskel arim, the man is stoned unclothed. Ve'eino isha niskelas aruma, a woman is not stoned unclothed. She's given 1 shift of clothing. My time I the Rabbanan, what's the reason of Rabbanan? Amakra virogmu oisai, we stone him, my oso, ilema oso velo osa, that we don't stone her, that can't be. We take out either the man or the woman. Either one that's Mechal Shabbos is stoned, etc. Either one that keeps does idolatry. Elamai oso below tsuso, him alone without his clothing, ha'osa biksusa. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, oso just tells me that the one that's stoned is oso, the person itself, and not with clothing. Oisei b'lo ksusa. Now the Torah is b'lashon zachar written, but it's loshna ish b'loshna isha. There's no difference between the man or the woman. Now the Gemara thinks now it will change its thinking, but the Gemara at this point thinks that the reason why the Rabbanan hold that we don't undress her is because we're worried about the thoughts, hirhurim, of the people that are around, the people that are witnessing, the people that are executing. L'meimer de Rabbanan chayshe lehirhura. The Rabbanan are worried about prurient thoughts. Rabbi Yehuda like chayesh lehirhura, and Rabbi Yehuda is not worried. But we, by the Isha Saita, we learned just the opposite. That Rabbi Yehuda is more concerned. Va'ipcha shamana lo. We learned the opposite. That not koyin. By the Isha Saita, by the suspected adulterous woman, the Kain is Eiches Bibigdeha, the Kain seizes the neckline of her blouse, and he rips it. If Nikru, Nikru, if it rips, it rips. If Nifru, Nifru, if it unravels, it unravels. Achin Megala Esliba, until he uncovers her breast. V'saiser Esara, and then he undoes and uncovers her hair. Rabbi Yehuda says, if she had a handsome breast, he wouldn't uncover it. And if her hair is pretty, he wouldn't reveal it. So you see, Rabbi Yehuda is chayish hear her. Why does he say over here that we undress her? Amar Rabbah, so Rabbah says, the reason why Rabbi Yehuda doesn't allow her blouse to be ripped open, maybe she'll leave the court innocent. In other words, the water will test her and it will show that she's innocent. And the young Kohanim that saw her naked will now lust after her. We're not worried if anybody sees her because she's going to be killed. Says the Gemara, but maybe by seeing her, people will be inflamed to have desire for other women. By seeing her, people will have an appetite for other women. We have a tradition, Ein Yetzahara Shailate, the Yetzahara only holds sway, Ela B'misha Ein of Reis, the one that the eye saw. So we're not worried that because you saw one woman, you want another woman. Amar Rava, so Rabbi says, okay, you answered the contradiction, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yehuda. Amar Rabbi Yehuda kasha. Rabbanan like kasha, but we have a steer Rabbanan too. Because over here the rabbis say that we stone her in a shift of clothing, we don't undress her. And by the Saita, they said that you tear open her blouse and uncover her. Rabbi Yehuda is not difficult kiddushanin, like we already answered. There are other considerations. Amakra, they hold that we expose her because there are women watching, and the shame that we give to this Isha Saita will be a deterrent. All the other women that are watching will be chastised. And they won't do like this woman's promiscuity. Even if she was an adulteress, she was still in with another man and flirted with another man. Over here, we don't need a bigger deterrent than pushing her off the cliff and killing her. We should undress her and also kill her. Says the Gemara, once we're killing her, we give her a good death, and we don't shame her. As the Gemara tells us, Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Bar Avua, Amar Krava Hafta L'Reacha Kamaycha. You should love your friend like yourself. Brar Loi Misa Yafa. Choose a good death, and therefore, since we're killing her, we don't kill her and also humiliate her. So the Gemara says, Leimed Rav Nachman Tanohi. Are we going to say that Rav Nachman is subject to a controversy? Rabbi Yehuda, who says that we only give her a loincloth and we embarrass her, doesn't hold of Rav Nachman. Says the Gemara, no, that's not the issue. There's another issue here. When a person has more clothes, they die not so quick. The question is, which would the woman rather? Die quicker or not show skin? Like the Kuli Alma Islu de Rav Nachman. Everybody holds that we choose a good death. V'hacha b'haka miflagi. Ma'ar savar bizyayne de inish adifalei tvei min yacha de gufei. She is more worried about her humiliation than about the extra pain that she's going to suffer. While Ma'ar savar, while Rabbi Yehuda holds niyacha de gufei, the fact that she'll die quicker because she's more undressed, Adif is more of a concern to her than the shame of having part of her body uncovered. Now, the new Mishnah is just getting underway over here with 29 Zumras as Barry has made an entrance. Barry is already thinking very thoroughly about what he's going to be for Purim. I know that they are selling cockroach outfits, but then he would have to be creeping, so I don't know if he's going to do that. Shelley thinks it's a good idea.
Poor you, Barry. You got zapped.
Now, Marshall is already wearing his costume. Now, Beis Haskila, how you gavay.
More of a cockroach costume. Okay.
Beis Haskila, how you gavaya shtei kaimes. The Beis Haskila was high, the height of two men. The average height of a man is 3 amas, so it was high 6 amas. And echad min ha'edim doichvei al masnav. One of the witnesses pushes him by his hips, and nepach aliba, if when he falls off the cliff, he turns and falls onto his chest, onto his stomach. Hoifchei al masnav, he's turned on his side. We don't turn him on his back because then he's going to see the stone coming at him. It's going to be more torturous. Hoifchei al masnav, we turn him on his side. If he died from the fall, then that's enough. We don't have to do anything more. We don't even have to stone him. If not, v'imlav hasheni noitel esa evan, the second aid helps the first aid that pushed him carry a heavy rock, v'noisnei alibay, and one of them hurls it at his chest. If he dies with that, fine. If not, everybody there stones him, like it says, Yada Edim Tia Lamisai, the hand of the witnesses are there first to execute him, Yad Kala'am Achraina, and everyone else to follow. Tana, the cliff was 2 heights high, and then you have his height. The Kaimis Shaloi Hare Kan Shalosh. So that's about 9 amas off the ground. Says the Gemara, why do we need to have it so tall? We know that a bar is considered to be fatal if it's 10 tvachim. 10 tvachim is a little bit more. It's 10 tvachim is like an amma and a half. Why do you need it to be 9 amas? So mibayin kula higher a minuma bar shu kidei l'hamas asar tvachim, just like a pit. It has a depth of 10 tvachim. Af kol kidei l'hamas asar tvachim. So also a trench and a cave is, if it's deep, 10 tvachim. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Avua, Amar Kra, again. You should love your friend like yourself. Choose an easy death. If it's going to be 10 tvachim, he might die, but it'll be a slow and agonizing death. This is quicker when he's from high. So the Gemara says, so then make it even higher. Says the Gemara, we're not going to make it higher, mishum de manavel, because then the body will become all messed up, and we don't want to disfigure the body.
According to the Mandi Amber, it says it's the Hevel that kills him. This doesn't apply.
What?
It's not Kasha. According to the Mandi Amber, that the Hevel of the bar kills
him. You're not really going into the whole Gemara over there, because everybody agrees that Chavota kills. The question is if Hevel kills also. Now, Echad min ha'edim doichvai, one of the witnesses pushes him off. Taner Rabbanan minayin shebedchia. How do we know? I mean, all we know is we call it skila. How do we know that you push somebody off the cliff? So by Har Sinai, it says no one should go near the mountain. If they do, sakel yisakel o yoyra yoyara. Now the pasuk says either we stone or we cast. So Talmud Lema Yorai, it says to cast down. Umanayin shebeskila, Talmud Lema Sakel. Umanayin shebeskila ubedchia, that sometimes we have to push him and also stone. Talmud Lema Sakel Yisakel, O Yoira Yiyara. Umanayim she'imeis betchia yatsa. How do you know if you throw him and he dies, that's enough? Talmud Lema, O Yoira Yiyara. You don't need both. Minayin she'afle doiros came, that it's that way for all generations and not just at Har Sinai. Talmud Lema Sakel Yisakel, also in the double lashon. V'im lav, if not, Eid Hasheni noitel esa Evan. If not, the second witness takes the rock. Noitel, Vatanya Reb Shimon ben Elazar Aimer, Evan Haisasham, there was a stone there. Noitel implies that he takes it by himself. But we learned Evan Haisasham, there was a stone there, Ma'asui Shnei B'nei Adam. The weight needed for two people to carry it. Noitla, he takes it, v'noisna alibay, and puts it on his chest. Imeis ba yatsa. So the Gemara says, but again, it says noitla v'noisna in the singular. It first says Masu Shnei B'nei Adam, the weight of two people, and then noitla v'noisna alibay, which is singular. The two of them lift up the stone. And then, in order for it to be hurled with direction, one of them releases its hand and it's hurled by only one of them. Vishadi la'ihu, and the second witness hurls it, the second witness ejects it, in order that it should come with the strength. Because if they would do it two at the same time, they wouldn't get the same pressure as one who hurls it himself. V'imlav, if not, rigimasai, then everybody stones him. Says the Gemara, that implies that sometimes he doesn't die. V'atanya me'olam lo yishana ba'adam. We never had a case that they had to repeat the stoning. It says the Gemara, Mika Amina Da'avid. Does it say that it happened? Di'i mitzvah ka'amina. This is what's done if it was to be necessary. Amamar, Evan Hoysa, there was a stone. Now that implies that there was a designated stone that they always used. So the Gemara says, but they buried the stone with him. Vatanya, achas evan sheniska by, whether the stone that he was stoned with, achas eight shenitla alav, or the beam that he was hung upon, the achat sayiv shener by, or the sword that he was beheaded with, the achat suda shenechnik by, or the turban that he was choked with. Kula nikbarinimai, they're buried with him. So what do you mean that there was a stone there? So the Gemara explains what it means is that they always replaced and had a stone there. Like tzricha de misakne, they prepared a stone, and then when they buried it, umaise achrina chilufayu, and they brought another one in its place. Says the Gemara, nikbarinimai, it's buried with him. Vatanya ain't nikbarinimai, it's not buried with him. So the Gemara says it's not buried right next to him, but it's buried within his reach, in other words, within his forearms. Amrapapa, my imai betfisasai, within his grasp, another within his forearms. So now the Gemara gives an interesting discussion. It says Yad ha'edim tia boy b'rishayna. What happens if the witness, his hand got amputated? So you can't have Yad Ha'edim. Does he get out of being executed? So very interesting. Amar Shmuel, Nikta Yad Ha'edim. If the hand of the witness is cut off, potter, then he gets out of execution. My timer. The hand of the witness has to be in execution first. Veleka. Elameata says the Gemara, Edim Gidamin. If the witnesses are without hands, the Meikara, Edim Gidamim, the Meikara, Achanami the Pasile, is it so that they would be disqualified? So the Gemara says no. Shani Hasam Damakra Yad Ha'edim, the hands of the witnesses Shahai Sekfar, that if they had hands, then if they get cut off, they can't testify. If they didn't have hands at all, they could testify and there wouldn't be a problem. Meisvei, whenever two witnesses give testimony, we testify about so-and-so, that his sentence was in Bezdin, and Pliny, and so-and-so and so-and-so are the witnesses. But why? Maybe by the time they want to execute, maybe the hands of the Edom got cut off. Tirgum Shmuel, Behain Hein Edav. It's talking about where it's the witnesses themselves that come and say that this is what happened, that they were sentenced. But if it wasn't the witnesses themselves, we wouldn't execute until we found out that the witnesses still have their hands. So the Gemara says, so you mean we take psukim literally? That the incidental information, Yada Edom Tirbai Berishayna, is it, Omiba Inan Kroked Ichsiv, do you need it to be exactly the way the pasuk is written? Vatanya Mois Yumas Hamake, the murderer should be put to death, right? I only know the death that's written. If you're not able to give him the death that's written, that you could give him any death that he wants, that you could give him. So you see that even though the Torah says skila, it doesn't have to be like it says in the Torah. Says the Gemara, that's different because it says the extra words mois yumas. Shani hasam damakra mois yumas. Says the Gemara, v'ligmar minei. Why don't we learn out from there that it doesn't have to be exactly the way it's written, and if the Edom don't have hands, you could kill him even if the Edom don't have hands. Says the Gemara, mishum davei roitzeach v'goyel adam shnei ksuvan abon ke'achad. The roitzeach, the killer, and the avenging relative are two psukim that teach us that you don't need it the way the pasuk is written, and therefore it's when the Torah says it by two places. See, if it wanted it to be learned out, it would say it by one place and would learn it out to everywhere else. If it says it by two places, that means it restricts it and reserves it to only those two places. The kol shnei ksuvan abon ke'echad, whenever two psukim teach the same thing, ein malamdin. Right, that even though the Torah says skila, we could kill him in any way that we can. Goyal adam maihi, what's the example of the avenging relative? The Tanya Goyal adam yomis esaritzeach. The avenging relative should kill the one who killed b'shoigeg. Mitzvah b'goyal adam. Menayin she'im ein loy goyal. How do we know that if he doesn't have an avenging relative, shebezdin mamidin loy goyal, the bezdin appoints from him an avenging relative. Shenemar befigoy boy, when he comes across the killer b'shageg, b'kol makam, even if he's not a relative. So it's in those two places that you don't need what's written exactly. Amalei mark shisha breid Rav Chisda Rav Ashi umiloi ba'inon kra k'dichsiv. Do we not need a pasuk the way it's written? V'tanan Haya echad mehem gidem oy ilem oy chiger oy suma oy cheresh. In the case of a ben Saira or Moira, the rebellious and wayward child, that if it fits all of the variables, we put him to death. If he is a glutton and a guzzler and he stole and he did it within the first 3 months after his bar mitzvah, right? But we said if one of the parents didn't have hands, or was mute, or was lame, or was blind, or was deaf, ain't a nasa ben Sarah Meira, because the Torah says Shenema v'safsu bay, the parents grab hold of him, obviously v'lo gidman, not if they don't have hands. V'loitziu say they take him out, they have to be able to take him out to the bezdin, v'lo chigar, not if they're lame that they can't take him out. V'amru, and they say b'neinu zeh ben Sarah Meira, Amru v'lo yilma, not if they're mute. B'neinu zeh, this child, that means they could see him. V'lo yisuma, not if they're blind. Einenu shemea b'keleinu, they're not listening to our voice. Now, from the fact that they say that he's not listening, that means they hear him say no. V'lo chershin, my timer. What's the reason that la mishum d'ba'inon kra k'dichsev, that you need the pasuk to be like it says? Loi, shani hasam dekula kra yiseiru. Those are all extra words. So obviously, if they're extra words, they teach you these lessons. Tajma, in the destruction of the Iran Nidachas, the city that goes astray, ein lo rechayiv. If it doesn't have, it says, because it says you take all of the booty to the city square, ein lo rechav, if the city doesn't have a square, ein nasis Iran Nidachas. It can't become an Iran Nidachas. Divrei Rabbi Yishmael. That's Yipani Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Kiva Aimer, ein lo rechav, eisen lo rechav. You make for it a square. But both agree that you need to have a city square. Ad kan lo pligi al demar savar rechav to make carbon. You need it to be pre-existing. Or mar savar rechav to hashtanami to make carbon. You could build one now. Aval kuli alma ba'inan kra k'dichsev. You need the pasuk the way it's written. So Gemara says, you're right. This is a machlokes tanoim. It's machlokes tanoim. The Tanya, in the case of a leper, a mitzayra, where we have to apply the blood and the oil to his big right thumb, his big right toe, and his right ear, ein loy bayin yad, bayin regel loy zimanis, if he doesn't have a big right thumb, a big right toe, a right ear, ein loy taroy lamis, he can never be purified. So that means that the Tanakama holds you need the pasuk the way it's written. Rebbe Eliezer says, well, if he doesn't have the big toe, it was amputated, put it in the place where the toe would have been. Noisin al mekaimai, put it in its place, v'yaitze. Reb Shimon says if he doesn't have a right toe, put it on the left toe. He doesn't have a right thumb, put it on the left thumb. Reb Shimon noisin al smailai, you put it on the left one, v'yaitze. You don't need to have the dvarim kichasavam. Now, just getting underway as we welcome in Chaim Kramer. It's nice to have you, Chaim, on a Matzah Shabbos. And I'm looking around how wealthy we are. Abe Arbach is here, and it's really nice to see now Reb Kaniel is coming in as our 31st Zoomer of the evening. We already had 31, so somebody dropped out. Where is Mark? Boy, Mark is again missing. We'll
send out a search party to go pick them up.
Yeah, well, you really should. Really should. Take out the plow. Okay. New Mishnah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'dvaro. Says the new Mishnah, Kol niskalin nitlin. All those that are stoned, are afterwards hung up for a very short amount of time before they're buried. Divrei Rebbe Eliezer. The Chacham say not all those that are stoned. Somebody was Machal Shabbos, although he gets stoning, is not hung. Only one who did blasphemy against Hashem or committed idolatry. If the man is executed, he's hung with his face facing the people. The woman is hung with her face facing the wood. Only men are hung. Women are not hung. Ish nisle, ve'ena isha nisle. So a woman is never hung. Amalur Rabbi Eliezer, so Rabbi Eliezer says, wait a second. We know that Shimon ben Shetach hung the 80 witches in Ashkelon. V'aloi Shimon ben Shetach tola noshin be'Ashkelon. So he said, you can't learn from there. Amrulai shmeinim noshin tola. He hung 80 women in one day. Ve'ein danin shnayim b'yom echad. And you don't judge, you don't execute more than one person on one day. The fact that he did 80 people, that was a special hayra'asha because of the proliferation of sorcery, and therefore you can't learn out from that because that's a case of an exception anyway. Tan Rabbanan, v'humas v'salisa. We put to death and we hang. Yachol kol amumus nitlin. I might think that all those that are executed are hung. Talmud Leimer ki killas elikim toli. Now, when it says ki killas elikim, ma mekalel zeh b'shebeskila, one who commits the blasphemy, he curses Hashem, is stoned. Af kol shebeskila. So anyone that's stoned is hung, but that's the only execution where afterwards we hang. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. The Chachamim Aimim, it's more restricted than that. Ma mekalel zeh, just like one who cursed Hashem, shekafar be'iker, he denies the essence of life, he denies Hashem. Af kol shekafar be'iker, also idolatry. But otherwise, anyone else that's stoned is not hung. What are they arguing over here? Rabbanan darshe klale uprate. Rabbanan darshan the less expansive generalization specification. Rabbi Eliezer darish ribuye miyute, the more expansive amplification limitation. Rabbanan darshe klale uprate. Generalization, specification. V'humas v'salisa, you execute and you hang, that's a klal, that's a generation. Ki kilalas, one who curses, prat. Now normally klal or prat ain't b'chlal elamashi b'frat. So iavi mikarve ladadi, if the klal and the prat were next to each other, amrinon, then we would say the yud gimel midas of ein b'chlal elamashi b'frat, and then we would only hang the one that curses. Hani in midi achrin alike. But now, hashta demircha kemei hadadi, now that they're distant from one another, ahani l'rebuya avidis kechavim, it helps to include the idolater also. The damalei b'chol milei, it's completely analogous in the fact that it's also skila and also kafar be'ikr. However, Rabbi Eliezer darish ribuye umiyute. Rabbi Eliezer dashens the more expansive amplification limitation. Vumas v'saluisa, execute and hang Rabbi. Ki killas miyut. It's a limitation. Iavi mikrive lahadadi lahavi marbinon. I would only include a little bit. I would only include avodah zarah, the damile b'chol milei, which is skila and also kafar be'ikr. Hashta the mircha kemei hadadi, it's a ribuy and miyat, and it's distant one from the other. Ahani the ribuy shar niskalim, that according to Rabbi Eliezer, we, after stoning, we hang in all cases, called Shabbos, etc. We hang in all cases the person for a very short amount of time. Says the Gemara. Oh, so I now have to change the channel. Hold on.